A 7-year-old boy walks into a courtroom alone. No lawyer, no script, just one mission: to save his father. But when he speaks, the entire courtroom falls silent. And what happens next will shake the justice system to its core. Title: A 7-year-old stands alone in court to save his father. What he said made the entire court cry. The courtroom was cold, not just from the air conditioning, but from the weight of silence. Hard wooden benches, tall looming walls. The judge sat like a mountain, still, stern, unreadable. A child's footsteps echoed as he walked in. Small shoes, blue shirt tucked in, hair combed but one strand still wild. His name was Narration, 7 years old, too small for the witness chair. They gave him a cushion. He did not smile. Everyone watched. Lawyers paused. Pencils stopped scribbling. Even the guards stood still. Across the room sat his father, wrists bound in cuffs, eyes red, lips trembling. He had not seen his son in weeks. The prosecutor spoke first. Cold voice, sharp words. "Tell the court what your father did that night, Narration." The boy blinked. He looked down. His fingers clenched the edges of the cushion. Silence. 10 seconds. 15. Then he looked up. His eyes, clear and bright, met the judge's. "My father did not hurt anyone," he said. A soft gasp rippled through the courtroom. He was trying to help someone. A woman was crying in the alley. The judge leaned forward. "How do you know this?" "Because I was there," Narration replied. "I followed him. I should not have, but I did." He told them everything. How his father ran into the dark alley. How a man was hitting the woman. How his father pulled the man away. How the man fell, hit his head, and stopped moving. Narayan's voice cracked. He was bleeding. "My dad tried to stop it." He shouted for help. The courtroom was still. No one interrupted. No one moved. Narration turned to the jury. Tears welled in his eyes, but he did not cry. "I know I'm just a kid," he said, "but if telling the truth makes me brave, then I will be brave for my dad." Someone sniffled in the back row. A juror wiped her eye. The judge looked down, then back up, and for a moment, the entire courtroom forgot about the law and remembered what it meant to be human. The judge leaned back slowly, his fingers interlocked. He stared at the child, not with power, but with thought. The prosecutor stood again. "Do you understand what happens if you lie in court, Narration?" Narration nodded. "I do." "Then tell us, why did your father not call the police after the man fell?" A pause. Heavy, breathless. "Because he was scared," Narration whispered. "Not of the police, but of what people would think." The prosecutor stepped closer. "And what about the woman? Where is she now?" Narration bit his lip. He looked at the floor. "She ran. She was hurt and scared. She said no one would believe her." A murmur spread across the room. The judge banged his gavel once. Order returned, but the tension remained. "Did your father tell you what to say today?" the prosecutor asked. Narration looked at his father, then back at the lawyer. "No, he told me not to come, but I came anyway." A few seats creaked. Even the court reporter had stopped typing. "Why?" Narayan's voice grew stronger. "Because I saw what really happened, and nobody else did." The judge leaned forward again. "Son, are you saying your father saved someone's life?" Narayan's hands trembled slightly, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." He pulled her away. He shouted at the man to stop. He was not trying to hurt anyone. He was trying to protect. The room pulsed with silence. You could hear the hum of the ceiling lights. You could hear hearts beating. The defense attorney stood. His voice shook. "Your Honor, I request a recess to locate the woman in question." The judge raised one hand. "No, let the boy finish." Everyone turned back to Narration. He looked so small on that tall chair, but his words filled the room like thunder. "If my dad goes to jail, I want to go with him. Now don't hold back." The juror in the front row sobbed. Even the bailiff looked away. But Narration stayed still, strong, unshaken. The truth, no matter how small the voice, had been spoken. And something in the room had changed. Something big, something unstoppable. The judge's gavel hovered in his hand, but he did not strike it. His eyes remained fixed on the boy, as if trying to see not just his face, but his soul. Nyron sat quietly. His legs dangled. He gripped the cushion tighter now. The prosecutor's folder dropped. Papers scattered. No one moved to pick them up. The defense attorney stepped forward again. Your Honor, this testimony, it changes everything. The judge said nothing. He turned to the clerk. Bring me the incident report. The clerk rushed out. Nyron's father covered his face with both hands. Not to hide tears, but to contain them. A soft chime from the hallway echoed in. Outside, clouds had begun to gather. The courtroom lights flickered, like even the sky was holding its breath. The prosecutor rubbed his temple. This is a child's story. He could be confused, emotional. Nyron looked up again. I am not confused. The room listened. Every syllable he spoke became a thread in a fragile web. I remember the smell of the alley. Garbage. Smoke. Perfume. The woman wore a red dress. It had a tear near the shoulder. She screamed when the man hit her. Gasps. One juror put a hand over her mouth. Another leaned in, stunned. The bailiff returned with a small envelope. Inside it, a grainy photo. A police shot from that night. A woman in a torn red dress. Running. Her face blurred, but her fear crystal clear. The judge stared at the photo. Then at Nyron. How did you know that? He asked. Because I was there, Nyron said again. His voice did not waver. I remember everything. The blood on the bricks. My father's hands shaking. How he begged her to run. Thunder cracked outside. Low. Long distant. And in that moment, a new kind of silence fell over the courtroom. Not of tension, but of belief. Something had broken. Something had shifted. But the storm had not yet passed. Not yet. The judge placed the photo down. Carefully, as if it might shatter. He looked at the prosecutor, then at the jury, then back at Nyron. You said your father begged her to run, the judge said. Why would he say that? Nyron took a breath. Deep, slow, heavy. Because the man who got hurt. He was a police officer. Gasps exploded across the courtroom. A sharp intake of disbelief. One juror whispered, What? Under her breath. The prosecutor's face froze, as if someone had slapped him. The judge narrowed his eyes. And how do you know that, Nyron? Nyron swallowed. I saw his badge. It fell from his pocket when he hit the ground. The courtroom turned to stone. Time thickened. Even the sound of the storm outside went mute. Nyron continued. He was not in uniform, but the badge was real. My dad saw it too. That is when he panicked. The defense attorney shot to his feet. Your Honor, none of this was in the official report. The judge held up a hand. Enough. He stared ahead, but his eyes drifted to something beyond the walls, as if trying to piece together a puzzle long buried. Nyron's father lifted his head at last. Their eyes met. Father and son. No words, just the truth between them. The prosecutor's voice returned, quieter now. Do you have any proof of this badge? Nyron shook his head. No. It was raining. I think it washed into the gutter. He looked down again. I tried to grab it, but my hands were too small. A pause. A long one. Heavy with consequence. The judge leaned back. His fingers tapped the armrest. Then stopped. Outside, thunder cracked again. This time, closer. A door opened. Everyone turned. A young woman stepped inside, soaked in rain, hair clinging to her face, a torn red dress under her coat. Gasps swept the courtroom again, louder now. Nyron's eyes widened. His voice broke into a whisper. That is her. And then, the courtroom erupted. She stood in the doorway, shivering, hands clenched at her sides. Eyes darted across the room, to the judge, the jury, then finally, to Nyron. Recognition flickered in her gaze. Her lips parted. No words came out. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Even the storm seemed to wait. The bailiff stepped forward. Ma'am, who are you? Her voice cracked like broken glass. My name is Molly. I was there that night. Nyron's father sat frozen, mouth slightly open, as if afraid breathing might break the moment. The judge motioned gently. Come forward, Miss Molly. She walked slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. Rain dripped from her sleeves. Her face was pale, but her spine stayed straight. The prosecutor's face had drained of color. His notes lay forgotten. She reached the front, stood near the witness stand, her eyes now fixed on the judge. "You were the woman in the alley?" She nodded. "Yes. And can you tell this court what happened that night?" Her eyes glistened. She closed them for a second, as if opening them again might return her to that alley. "The man attacking me was not a stranger. He was my husband." The room tensed. Some people looked away. Others leaned in. "I tried to leave him. That night, he found me. He said if I screamed, he would kill me." Her hands trembled now. But someone did hear me. A man came running. "Your Honor, it was this man." She pointed, straight at Nyron's father. Tears welled in her eyes. "He pulled my husband off me. He saved my life." Gasps filled the room once more. Murmurs. Whispers. Tears. The prosecutor tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The judge leaned forward again, his voice quieter now. "And your husband?" She nodded slowly. "He was a police officer. Off duty. He never thought anyone would report him." Silence wrapped around the courtroom like a blanket. Nyron clutched the cushion tighter, eyes fixed on the woman who had just turned everything upside down. The judge folded his hands, stared at the defense, then at the jury. Outside, the rain poured harder, but inside, something was breaking open, and it was only just beginning. The judge exhaled slowly. His fingers steepled under his chin. His gaze swept the courtroom, now hanging on the edge of breath. "Molly," he said gently, "why did you not come forward sooner?" Her lips trembled. "I was afraid. He told me no one would believe me, that he was the law, that if I spoke, I would disappear." Her eyes dropped. "I ran. I have been running ever since." A juror shook her head slowly, eyes glossy with emotion. The prosecutor stood, but his shoulders sagged. He no longer looked like a man certain of guilt. "And the badge?" the judge asked. Molly nodded. "It was real. After the fight, it slipped from his jacket. I remember Nyron reaching for it, but he was just a little boy." She turned now, facing Nyron. "You should not have had to carry this." He blinked, silent. Still, his small hands now rested in his lap. But his heart, it raced like thunder. The defense attorney stood slowly. "Your Honor, this testimony confirms my client's account. I request that all charges be dropped immediately." The judge raised his hand. "Not yet." He turned to Molly again. "One final question. Did Nyron's father strike your husband with intent to kill?" She shook her head. "No." He told him to stop. He tried to pull him away. She paused, voice trembling. "My husband swung first. Your Honor, he would have killed me if Nyron's father had not stopped him." The courtroom held its breath. A paper fluttered from the prosecutor's desk. The sound was deafening. The judge turned at last to the jury. "You have heard the testimony. You have seen the witness." His voice firmed, echoing with finality. "Justice does not wear one uniform." And as the gavel hovered above the bench, every eye turned to Nyron, still and small, but no longer invisible. Something was about to change. Forever. The judge's gavel trembled in his hand, still raised, still waiting. Every soul in the courtroom leaned forward, not to hear a sound, but to witness a moment. Nyron sat unmoving, his wide eyes locked on the bench, not afraid anymore, just waiting. His father could barely breathe. His fingers dug into the edge of his seat. Tears clung to his lashes, but none fell. The storm outside roared, slamming wind against the courthouse windows. But no one turned. The true storm was inside. The judge looked to Molly one last time. "You are willing to testify formally?" "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice was steady now, worn, but brave. "And you understand that your testimony may spark a full investigation into your late husband's conduct?" She nodded once. "I'm not afraid anymore." A sharp silence followed, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then, the judge lowered the gavel, but still did not strike. He turned to Nyron. "You may step down, young man." Nyron blinked. He hesitated. then slowly slid off the chair. His small shoes touched the floor again. But now, he seemed taller. As he passed the benches, people stood, not ordered, not instructed. They stood because something sacred had unfolded. A truth, carried on the back of a child, had shattered every lie. And now, the weight of it filled the room. The judge rose from his bench. He looked not at the lawyers, not at the jury, but at Niren's father. "Remain seated," he said softly, "until my ruling is delivered." But there was something in his eyes, something not written in any law book. A whisper of mercy, a shadow of understanding. The gavel hovered once more. Closer now, the wood about to meet the block. And then, the doors burst open again. Another figure stepped inside, dripping rain, wearing a badge. Everyone turned. He looked straight at the judge. "Your Honor," he said, breathing hard, "there is something you need to see." The gavel stopped. Midair. The room froze again. One breath, 1 second, everything hanging in it. And the truth, it seemed, was not finished speaking. All heads turned. Shoes scraped against the floor. Heels clacked. Breaths caught. The man at the door, tall, soaked, face pale under the brim of his hat, badge on his chest. He stepped forward, his boots leaving wet prints across the polished floor. The silence made every step thunder. "Detective Surisak," he said, his voice steady but tight. "I am with Internal Affairs." The judge studied him. "Go on." The detective held up a flash drive. "Found in evidence. Overlooked. Buried. This contains security footage from a nearby camera." He said. It had been mislabeled and archived. Until now, the prosecutor shifted uneasily. Why are we only seeing this now? The detective's eyes darkened. Because someone did not want it seen. He turned to the bailiff. "May I?" The judge nodded once. A screen flickered on. The courtroom dimmed. And there, grainy, gray footage appeared. A narrow alley. Wet pavement. Dim lights. They saw her first. Molly, running, stumbling, turning to scream. Then the man behind her. Big, fast, fist raised. The footage jumped. Another figure entered. Niren's father, charging in, grabbing the man, pulling him back, struggling, falling. The attacker slipped, hit the ground, hard. He did not move again. The timestamp glowed at the bottom corner. The storm rumbled louder outside, as if nature itself watched in awe. Molly gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. I never knew it was recorded." The judge stared at the screen. His hand finally lowered, but the gavel stayed still. The jury sat in stunned silence. No questions, no doubts. Truth, unfiltered, unspoken, now undeniable. Detective Surisak looked to the judge. "Your Honor, we have opened a full investigation into the deceased officer's conduct. Multiple complaints were buried, files erased." He looked at Niren's father. "This man should never have been arrested." The judge leaned back slowly. His eyes closed for a moment, not from weariness, but from the weight of justice finally returning to its place. Then he looked to Niren, to Molly, to the man in cuffs, and the gavel began to fall, but not to end the case, to awaken something deeper, a reckoning, a release. And the moment before it hit the block, you could feel it. The whole room held its breath. The gavel hovered, just inches from judgment. Then, the judge paused again. He turned to the bailiff. "Uncuff him." Gasps scattered through the courtroom. Soft as feathers, sharp as glass. The bailiff hesitated, then moved. Keys jingled. Metal clicked. The cuffs fell. Niren's father rubbed his wrists slowly, like he was feeling his own skin again. For the first time in weeks, he did not speak. He looked at his son. Their eyes locked, and nothing needed to be said. The judge stood. His voice was calm, firm, unshakable. This court has witnessed more than a trial today. It has witnessed fear, courage, and a truth that others tried to bury. He looked at Molly, at Niren, then at the detective. "This man," he said, gesturing to Niren's father, "is no criminal. This court will move to dismiss all charges immediately. Cheers did not erupt. No one stood. No one clapped. Instead, there was stillness. The sacred kind. The kind that follows storms. The kind that feels like forgiveness. Nyron's father stood slowly, unsteady, as if gravity still remembered the weight he had carried. He knelt, arms open, and Nyron ran to him. The courtroom melted. Jurors cried freely. Lawyers wiped their eyes. Even the judge turned away for a moment, not from duty, but from the swell of humanity rising inside him. Outside, the rain began to fade. Clouds slowly parted. A sliver of sunlight broke through the storm. Inside, a boy held his father, tightly, silently, like he was never letting go again. But even now, the echoes of injustice lingered in the corners. And far beyond the courthouse walls, someone else was watching. In the farthest corner of the courtroom, beneath the shadow of a marble column, a figure stood, still, unannounced, unnoticed until now. He wore a dark suit, dry, unlike everyone else, his eyes hidden behind tinted glasses. Detective Surisak turned first. His voice dropped to a whisper. "That is him." The room turned slowly, like a wave of awareness rippling through air too thick to breathe. Molly's eyes widened. Her breath caught. The figure stepped forward. His steps were deliberate, measured, the heels of his shoes clacking with cold precision. He stopped in the center aisle, looked at the judge, then at Molly, then at Nyron. No smile, no fear, just a stare, so steady it chilled the bones. The judge narrowed his eyes. "State your name and purpose." The man ignored him. Instead, he pulled a thin black wallet from his coat, flashed a card. "Special branch. Internal intelligence." No name, just clearance. Detective Surisak stepped forward. "You have no jurisdiction here." The man's voice was calm, unnaturally calm. "I am not here to interfere. I am here because this goes deeper than you think." The judge raised his gavel again, but this time in warning. "Sir, unless you have evidence or testimony relevant to this case." The man raised a finger, not to silence the judge, but to draw attention. From his coat, he pulled out a folder. Plain, unmarked. He handed it to the bailiff. "Read page 3 aloud," he said. The bailiff hesitated, then obeyed, hands trembling, eyes darting. A moment passed. Then his voice echoed. Asterisk, report filed 6 years ago. Officer Somchai, internal citation, repeated use of force, off-duty aggression, 3 sealed complaints from civilians. Investigation halted due to insufficient evidence. Asterisk, gasps surged. The prosecutor sat back hard. Molly covered her mouth. The judge stared at the man. "You're saying this was known?" "Buried," the man replied. "Intentionally." He looked again at Nyron's father. "Your arrest was not a mistake." The room chilled. The storm was gone outside. But inside, a new one brewed. "Then who?" The judge began, but the man cut him off. "You are not in danger now," he said quietly, "but they will want this forgotten." He turned to Nyron, to the child who had cracked open the silence. "Remember this," he said. "Truth has many enemies, but courage only needs one voice." And then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the man turned and walked out. No one followed. No one dared. Inside, Nyron held his father's hand. Molly stood beside them. The truth had been set free, but had stirred shadows. And somewhere beyond the doors, they were still watching. The heavy wooden doors closed behind the man. A soft click, too quiet for the weight it carried. No one moved. Not yet. As if breaking the silence might invite something darker in. The judge sat slowly, his face pale, his jaw locked tight. He tapped the edge of his bench. Once, twice, his thoughts racing behind steady eyes. Detective Surisak leaned toward the prosecutor, his voice low, urgent. "Did you know about this?" The prosecutor shook his head, but his hand said otherwise, clutching his pen too tight, avoiding everyone's eyes. Nyron stood at his father's side, his small fingers wrapped around a hand that had once held back violence and now held on to hope. Molly's gaze did not leave the folder. The truth was now in ink, but still felt fragile. The judge opened his mouth to speak, but before a word could leave it, a phone buzzed on the bailiff's desk. One vibration, then another, then another. 3 phones, then 4. The courtroom filled with the humming tremor of incoming messages. The bailiff picked his up. His eyes scanned the screen. Then he paled. His hand shook, and he passed the phone to the judge. The judge read the screen. His face drained of color, then hardened. "What is it?" The defense attorney's voice cracked with unease. The judge lifted his eyes. "There has been a breach. Someone accessed sealed files from the internal affairs server. Moments ago." Detective Surisak stepped forward. "Who? We do not know yet, but they covered their trail." The screen flickered again, this time the courtroom lights. A low hum built in the ceiling. Not thunder, not wind. Something electrical. Something wrong. The judge gripped the bench. This case is no longer just a trial. It is a fuse. He turned to Niren's father. "You must leave this courthouse. Now, take your son. Take Molly. You will have protection, but you will not have peace." Outside, a black car rolled up. Tinted windows. Engines still running. The storm had passed, but danger had just begun to rise. And inside that courtroom, everyone knew. The truth had not just come out. It had made enemies. The judge's voice dropped lower, but carried the weight of finality. "I am ordering an immediate protective transfer to a secure location. Off record." No one argued. No one dared. Molly's hands clenched around her coat. Her eyes darted toward the windows, as if something might be watching. Or already inside, Niren's father stood, his hands still gripping Niren's. Tighter now. The boy looked up at him, confused, but calm. "I thought it was over," he whispered. His father knelt beside him. "It is not over yet, but we are not alone anymore." Detective Surisak moved quickly. He pulled his radio close to his mouth. "Unit Echo, roll back up to the east entrance. Block all exits. No press. No public." The signal crackled. Then silence. Too long. Too quiet. The detective froze. No response. Everyone inside stopped breathing. Then, a sharp sound. Not from the hallway. From within. Click. The door at the rear of the courtroom unlocked. Slow. Deliberate. Someone had entered through a staff-only corridor. The bailiff reached for his sidearm, but the judge raised a hand. "Do not escalate unless you must." Footsteps echoed in the corridor behind the judge's bench. One pair. Heavy. Measured. Then, a second pair. Niren clutched his father's arm. Molly stepped in front of him. The door creaked open. 2 figures emerged. Black suits. Blank expressions. Earpieces glinting under the dim lights. Not police. Not guards. Not friends. Federal Division, one of them said flatly. "We are here to assume custody of the subjects and all evidence involved." The judge slammed his palm on the bench. "This court has not authorized transfer. Show your credentials." They did. Flashed, not handed. Too fast. Too clean. Too practiced. Detective Surisak stepped between them and the family. "You're not listed on any federal unit I have clearance for. We do not answer to you," the taller one said. "Or to local courts." The air thickened. The silence turned hostile. The judge stood slowly. "You will not remove anyone until I speak with your commanding officer. You will not touch this boy. You will not touch this man. Not while I wear this robe." The agents exchanged a glance. Then, one reached into his coat. The room tensed. Fingers hovered near weapons. Nerves fired beneath every collar. But it was not a gun. It was a phone. He handed it to the judge. "Answer it." The judge took it, lifted it to his ear. His expression changed almost immediately, from resistance to disbelief, then to fear. When he spoke again, his voice was no longer made of iron. It was glass. "Escort them out the back." Now, Surisak stepped forward. What do they say to you? The judge did not answer. He handed the phone back and turned away from a bench, from the law, from the fight. And Narration, still gripping his father's hand, looked back once to the courtroom where he spoke the truth, to the silence that swallowed it, and to the shadows that were only just beginning to move. Narration stepped backward as the agents advanced. His father placed one arm protectively in front of him. Detective Surasak did not move aside. I said, he warned, you are not taking them. The taller agent paused. His jaw tightened. He glanced to the phone in his partner's hand. Still glowing. Still connected. No one is above this, Surasak growled. I do not care whose voice is on that call. The room crackled with tension. The kind that comes before lightning. The kind that changes everything. The shorter agent leaned forward, his voice just above a whisper. You really want to die on this hill, detective? Surasak smiled faintly. No, but I am willing to bleed on it. Behind him, Molly gripped Narayan's hand now, too. The boy stood between them, not crying, not trembling, just watching. Watching the truth twist again into danger. Watching grown-ups pick sides. The judge remained turned away. Still, silent, like a statue, or a man already buried beneath the weight of what he had heard. Then, a voice cut through the tension. Small, clear. Narration, you cannot erase this. Everyone turned. The taller agent blinked. What did you say? The boy stood forward now, shoulders square, voice louder. You could take cameras. You can take papers. But you cannot take what people saw. You cannot take me. The agent stared. Surasak slowly reached behind him. Tapped his phone. Recording. Molly's eyes brimmed. Not from fear, but pride. The judge turned again, his face drawn. But this time, something had returned to his eyes. Resolve. No one, he said slowly, is taking that boy from this room without going through me first. The agents exchanged another glance. The phone in their hand went dark. Disconnected. They stepped back. 1 inch. Then 2. Retreat. Not surrender. A delay. The taller one spoke again. Enjoy your moment, Judge. Moments end. They turned. Walked out the back. No words left behind, but a warning in every footstep. Silence fell once more. This time, it was heavier. Not of fear, but of knowing. Knowing that the storm had only shifted, not passed, and somewhere beyond the courthouse, beyond the reach of law and light, the eyes watching had not blinked. The door clicked shut behind the agents. Their presence vanished, but their shadow remained. No one spoke, not even the judge. The air had thickened again, coated with a quiet kind of dread. Detective Surasak finally broke the silence. We need to move. Now. He signaled to an officer at the side door. A hidden hallway. No windows. No press. Narayan's father took his son by the hand, but paused. He turned back. To the bench. To the courtroom. To the space where his freedom had been decided. And threatened in the same breath. Will they come again? He asked quietly. Surasak nodded. They will. But next time, they might not knock. The judge stepped down from the bench. His robe moved with slow weight. He no longer looked like the highest authority in the room. He looked like a man who had just realized how far authority could be outrun. I thought the law was enough, he said, until I heard that voice on the phone. He looked at Narration. I do not know what is coming next, but I know it started because of you. The boy blinked, then nodded. Molly gently touched the judge's arm. You still have a choice. They want silence. You still have a voice. The judge turned to Surasak. I will draft a motion. Seal the evidence under judicial witness protection. Off the grid. It will not stop them, Surasak said. No, the judge agreed. But it will slow them down. Outside, the sky had cleared. But inside, something was rising. A decision. A movement. A ripple across the surface of something far deeper. Go. The judge said at last. Before they changed tactics, the group turned. Moved fast, but not rushed. Every hallway felt too long. Every corner, a risk. As they reached the service exit, A black van waited, unmarked, engine low. Surasak opened the door. Help Molly in first, then Nyron, then his father. The detective lingered for one final glance at the courthouse, then stepped inside. The van pulled away, windows tinted, destination unknown. And in that moment, for the first time, Nyron looked down at his hands. They were small, but steady. He had told the truth. And now, he carried the weight of it, not as a burden, but as a torch. And far behind them, in a quiet government room, where light barely reached, someone else was lighting matches. The van drove through winding roads, away from the city, away from flashing cameras and silent threats. Nyron sat quietly between Molly and his father. His head rested on his father's shoulder, but his eyes remained open, still watching, still listening. Outside the window, the world looked normal, too normal, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Molly whispered, "We are not safe, but we are free. For now." His father did not reply. He simply placed his hand over Nyron's. Strong, worn, grateful. Detective Surasak checked his phone again. No new messages, no new threats, only the silence before the next storm. Hours passed. The van pulled into a small, fenced property, a safe house, not in the city, not in the system. As they stepped inside, Nyron stopped at the threshold. He turned to look at Surasak. "Will they forget?" he asked. "My words." Surasak crouched to meet his eyes. "No," he said, "not the people who mattered." Nyron looked down, then smiled, just a little. Inside the house, the lights were soft. The air smelled of old wood and tea, a warmth they had not felt in months. They were safe, but not hidden, not for what came next. Later that night, the judge stood in front of a press conference. Unscheduled, unadvised. Cameras rolled. Reporters shouted. But he spoke only one sentence. "The smallest voice in the courtroom was the loudest in my conscience." He walked off the stage. No questions, no hesitation. Somewhere, in the deepest parts of power, a name had been whispered too many times. Nyron, the boy who spoke for his father, and shattered a wall of silence. And in the stillness of that quiet house, with the world still chasing shadows, Nyron finally closed his eyes, not in fear, but in peace, because he had done what many never could. He had told the truth, and changed everything.